Hello, this is Mr. James. I'm going to try to go over Project 3.2 with you today. I just wanted to make sure that some of the basic things are covered and that you're clear and it's not as daunting as it might seem to be for people really just wanting to start learning how to program. Okay, so this is the finished project when it gets done. That's what it should look like. These are the files. Okay, right here I'm in Adobe Dreamweaver, but you could use Notepad. You could use, if you're on a Mac, you could use BB Edit. I think there's a program called Text Edit that is native on a Mac in the operating system. So any basic text editor will do, and there's free ones and there's ones you can pay for. I like Dreamweaver. It's handy. I've got Adobe programs, and I'm used to it. So okay, so here are the three files. Okay, now you need all three to make this work. You won't have to do anything with the .css file that's in the project folder. Okay, but you need it. You need to download those files, all three of them, the .html, the .css, and the .js file. You'll need all three of those. And in this case, for this project, you're going to need all those images. I can't remember how many there were. Let me see. Looks like there's 14 of them. Okay, so you'll need those as well. They need to be in a folder together so they can all find each other when the files are working together to produce this web page right here. Okay, so the CSS file, I don't think in fact you're not going to have to do anything with that. That is just there for what we would call the formatting, to make it look nice. It provides the color, it provides the positioning of things, the sizing of things, and for the most part, the background colors, the borders if there are any, it provides that. So the book people have provided us the CSS file, and that is not something we should have anything to do with. But we do need it. We need it to get it to look like this. If you don't have it, it's going to look more like, I don't know if I have an example of it, but it's not going to be formatted nicely. It'll just be the information on the page. The pictures will probably be there, but there's not going to be any colors or anything like that make it look nice. So you need the CSS file to make it look like it's supposed to look. But you'll also, of course, need the HTML file. That's the source code, at least in here in my Dreamweaver editor. It calls the HTML file the source code. Okay, not sure exactly why that gets that name. It's just a .html file. Okay, and in fact you can see it right up here in this tab. I've got the file open. I've got a completed version of it. It's .html. Okay, so this file, they're telling us that they want us. There's not much to do in here. Okay, other than to link the .js file, the script file, and that's this right here. You can see that. Okay, you need to have a line like this. SR is a script tag. SRC equals the name of the .js file. I renamed mine a little bit to a completed version. I keep an uncompleted version and then also a completed version. And then they want you to put this defer attribute in here. It's just a standalone attribute inside that script tag to make the browser wait until the full HTML page has loaded in order to, before it will start running any scripts. It wants to have access to all the HTML items on the page before it starts running any scripts, which is fine. Okay, so I'm going to also look in here. I'm going to need, I think it's this file. Okay, these are the instructions. Let me go find, I think I'm on Project 4, but let me see if I can find Project 3 up here. Hands-on projects. I hope I'm not logged out. I am logged out. Okay. Well, let's take care of that. Well, let me just go through this, and I think I can probably remember what we need to do. Okay. On the steps through here, let's look inside of the the JavaScript file. Now, is this number two? This is 3.2, okay? And you've got this array. So let me just talk just a second about the array, okay? An array is a variable that can hold multiple variables, okay? In this case, and this is always the first what we call object type of variable that is taught in programming. It's the array, okay? It's just a list. It's a list of things. In this case, it's a list basically of captions, of like brief phrases or maybe a sentence. Doesn't even look like they're all sentences, okay? So it's just a list, and it's numbered, and it's always numbered from 0, okay? 0 is always the first item in an array. So if it's got 14 items in it, it goes from 0 to 13. It says it's got 14 right here, and when the array is created, this is a great way to create an array right here. I like this with the new keyword. But that's excellent, because that's the form, that's the method, that's the way that you would create an array in an object in an object-oriented language, which JavaScript is sort of featured like an object-oriented language. So, but you've got this captions array, and you can access all these different values by just using the word captions, the name of the array, and the index number for the appropriate value that you want. Okay, so for loops are common to work with arrays. That they usually work together. They work together very nicely because a for loop really operates on numbers, using numbers, and it counts to get to the end of the for loop. It either counts up or it counts down. And because arrays are numbered, they're indexed with numbers, it makes an array very easy for a for loop to work with. Okay, you've probably read that in the book or seen things like that in the book, but I'm going to just go ahead and kind of walk through this just a little bit more. Okay, now this project, you're going to need this for loop. Okay, and this is it right here. I know one of the instructions in the project is to put a for loop in here. Okay, you're going to need a couple of variables. You're going to need an HTML code variable. That HTML code is going to hold the HTML that will produce this sort of, it's not really a table, but produce this sort of grid look with all these images and these captions on it. Okay, every time you have code that looks like this, and I wish I had the book. I'm going to go ahead and try to get logged in here real quickly. I don't really want to do that, but I will. I guess I will. Let me see here. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to get into the book. Hopefully it'll just let me in. I hope I'm in here. I hope you're going to be able to see all of this. Maybe it will. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's get to chapter 3, and it's 3.2. So I'm right there. I'm in the projects. Here's project 2. Okay, hands-on project with the NASA pictures. Okay, so the first step here is to make sure that you get that script tag inside your HTML file in order to for the HTML part of the project, the HTML file to access the JavaScript file. Okay, the only two files you're going to work on are the HTML file and the JavaScript file. You won't have to work with the CSS file. Okay, all right. So I got that taken care of. Let's see what else we got here. Second step. Yeah, we put the defer attribute into the script tag. The third step. Okay, this HTML code variable. Let's look at that real quick. In the JavaScript file, it's right here. var. I use var. They may have you using let or const, C-O-N-S-T-R, I think it is. Whatever. I use a var. You can use any of those ways that they're telling you to use. Okay, in the book. Okay, but I've got a variable HTML code. It starts out empty. It's just an empty string. Okay. I also throw another variable in here, var I. it's just going to be my counter variable for my for loop. You can put it in the for loop. You can just say var, whoops, right there, and you can do it that way. I don't know why. I just like to put it up here. It's sort of a global variable like that. Okay. Now that I'm going to let you. You need to figure out how to do the for loop from the book. Okay. That's not too tricky, I don't think. The first part right here, I equals 0, is the initializing part of the loop. All loops have the same 3 parts. They're just in different places. I equals 0 is the place where it initializes the loop. As long as I is less than the captions dot length, the captions array, its length, which is it's going to be 14, but it's 0 through 13. As long as it's below that, it's going to keep running. Once it gets either equal to the length or greater than it, once it gets to 14, it's not going to run because there's not a 14th element here. There's only 0 through 13. Okay, so we use the less than symbol because it has to stay under the length, because the length is going to start numbering at 1, but our index numbers for the array start at 0. Okay, and so that's the limiter. You've got the initializer, the limiter, and then the incrementer or the progressor. So it's got to have a way to get to where it's going to finish. And this is it, I++. I++ basically means just add 1 to I every time we go through a sequence of this loop, or what we would call an iteration of the loop. Okay. Now the loop just contains the HTML code variable that we start out with an empty string for, and we're gonna add to itself every time that we go through the loop, and it's just going to add the code for the figure, okay, to put the picture in and the little caption. Okay, it's pretty basic. It's pretty basic, okay? But I will say this is the tricky part of this project, because I didn't think they showed this very good in the book. Okay, it is what it is, and we're going to have to deal with it. But this, to me, was the tricky part. I know they showed this to you like this, in this stacked configuration, this little stacked format. That's not going to work real well in the code. I don't think. I had a little bit of a hard time with it. It's not. It needs to all run along in one line. Okay. You see this line 33? It's just one big line of code. That's what we call a logical line. It's 2 physical lines, but it's just one logical line. Okay. So it wraps. It runs off the end, and it just wraps underneath itself. Okay. Now, the tricky part about this kind of stuff, where you're building something that you're going to output into an inner HTML for some ID in the web page, like this gallery ID, and we're going to fill that div with this new code that's going to fill it up with all these pictures and these captions. This is a little tricky, because in this case we've got to. This is the hardest thing about this project, I think, for somebody new. You've got to get the HTML code in there, and you've also got a couple variables that you're dealing with. Okay, now they're numbers. They hold numbers. This I is a number. Okay, it's a stand-in for a number, and it's going to change every time it iterates through the loop, from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 all the way up to 13. Okay, so I is going to change, but you can see right here this gold code that this text right here, this gold, it's in between these sets of double quotes right here. Okay, that is actual HTML code, and you need those tags. You need that image tag, you need that figure tag, you need that image img tag. It's got an alt, which we can talk about that some other time. You absolutely have to have the src for an image tag. Okay, and it's using the word slide, because you'll notice in the let me see if I can find this. No, let's see. I need chapter 3 right here. 3 and project 2, and there's the pictures. Okay, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see this because this is pretty small. Okay, I know it's pretty small. This these files, these picture files, these image files, the JPEGs, are all named slide 0, slide 1.jpg, slide 2.jpg, slide 3.jpg, slide 4.jpg. They're named the same all the way through from 0 to 13 except for the number. So the word slide prefixes the number on every single one of those, and .jpg suffixes the number on every single one of those names of the files. Okay, so that is reflected in here. It's a common way to set something like this up. Okay, and I'm using the word slide right there for the first part of that source attribute for the image tag. Okay, now I got to close the quote right there. Okay, because I've got to then concatenate a number in to match this. We're really here, right here, to match the name, the way that the images are named. Okay, so I've got I right there, and it's going to keep changing every time it iterates through. It's going to go from 0. That I is going to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 on every single one of them, every single iteration through the loop, through the for loop. Okay, and then the rest of my HTML, the rest of my code here picks right up with a double quote again, .jpg, so it finishes the image, you know, the name of the image. I've got slide and then the number and then .jpg, and it's concatenated in right here. Okay, you need to look that word up if you don't know what that is. Concatenate. It's adding text together. You can add numbers in with it, and when you add numbers, it becomes part of the text. Okay, and then I've got this you know, that double quote. I finish the name of the image, and then I close out inside that double quote. I close out the image tag, and then I go down here and finish off my I add my fig caption, and I have to close that off with a double quote too, because I've got to then concatenate in my caption array element. Okay, so again, that is a whole variable right there. Captions I, you know, the first time through it's going to be captions 0, and then the second time it'll be captions 1, and then captions 2, and then captions 3, all the way up to 13. So I have to keep that separate. It's concatenated in as a separate piece. Okay, it's a separate variable. Okay, the I variable is used here, and then it's also used in the captions, for the captions array. They correspond to each other. The images and the captions array elements correspond to each other. Okay, picture 0 corresponds to captions 0, and picture 7 corresponds to captions 7. Okay, but then I have to concatenate in the closing part of this whole big string that I'm putting together to add an image onto the web page, the closing fig caption and the closing figure tags. Okay, so there I have it. Now, one more thing I want to mention to you, and they're not showing this to you. When they say to add this code in, wherever they've got it right here, I believe it's right here. They're just showing you what the HTML needs to look like in the web page in order for it to function, but they're not showing you, I don't think they're showing you how to put it into the JavaScript code in order to get it to come out that way. So they're not really showing you, I don't think I think you need the concatenation in here. Okay, and this is not particularly thorough, I don't think. So you're going to need it like this is. I think there may be other ways to do it. I'm sure there's more than one way to do it, but this is how I do it. Okay, and it's working. It works fine. But another thing you have to be aware of is these attributes all have to be quoted, even in the HTML. I think you can see that probably here. You can see them, and it's using single quotes right there. It's got single quotes around the source value and the empty alt value. Okay, those are the only look like they're the only attributes that have quotes in that need to be quoted, because they're attribute values in that little chunk of HTML code. But you can't use double quotes, because if you do, it's going to close off this quote, and then it's going to act like this is two quotes, and there's no plus sign in the middle, and it's not going to concatenate, and it's going to be weird. Okay, so anytime you've got internal quotes to a larger double quoted section of code in JavaScript, you've got to put single quotes. You've got to use single quotes there for that alt attribute and also for this source attribute value. You've got to use single quotes, or in this case right here, a double quote. But you've got to have single quotes around the whole, what will be the whole outer edges of that source attribute when that code gets written into the HTML page, like right there. And let me see if I can make that bigger. Okay. Like right there, and you've got a it's got to be written like that so that the browser can read that and tell, oh, it's an image, and I've got to find an image to show here. Okay, so that's really the, I think, was the hard part about this project. Okay, let me see if there's a few other lines. Let's see. Okay, so I think the details, you can look at that, but to me that makes it even harder. They're trying to put in English what this says, but okay. So I'm moving on here. Number 5 for the for loop. Change the inner. Okay, this is the end of the. Okay, this is the end of the project right here. This is the last line. It gets run, and I'm not. Well, in this case, we're just going to rewrite into the gallery ID, new inner HTML, and we're going to get this big compiled HTML code variable that has 14 of these figures in it with their images and their captions, and it'll all come out. Okay, so when we get done, let me see if I can make this show up for you. Okay, so this is the file, but let's right click on this and let me just see. I'm going to do the view page source. Yeah, it just gives me the short version, and you can see in here my JavaScript that we wrote. Okay, that I wrote for the project. That's the JavaScript file. But I would really like to. Let me see if I can show this to you in some fashion here. More tools, web developer tools, inspector. All right, let's see if I can get this to show up for you. Article, no. Div, that might be it. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so this is the HTML code here. Okay, and you can see it once it's been. See there? It actually has to get written in there. That I'm opening up here constitutes the HTML code variable's content, its full value that it gets, because we've run a for loop and added 14 of these big figure and figure caption tags all together to produce this web page. Okay, so that is Project 3.2. If you have questions, you can email me, but I think that might help a little bit. Thank you very much. Bye.